Sobriety test of college football is back. Survey says still drunk. But we appreciate you joining us on this Monday. Got an absolutely loaded show for you. We need to get right to it to try and get through all of it. Remember, the phone line's going to open 2:45 p.m. Central Time. That's 3:45 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm not smart enough to know the other times. Also, remember, if you do donate and it's on topic, it'll get read during the topic. If not, it'll get read at the end. So don't worry if you donate and it doesn't get asked instantly. Our good friend Blaine over there working the chat is going to get to you. Guys, we got a ton of football stuff to get into, college and the NFL, but we would be remiss if we didn't mention that all the rich people are happy. Yankees and Dodgers.
Congrats, man.
Congrats
on your team making the World Series.
Congrats, buddy. I know you're really
Couldn't be
excited.
worse for me. Couldn't be worse for me. That's how you know there's nothing but there's no good in the world. That they can get away with this.
And they haven't gotten away with it yet.
And be rewarded with success.
So
That's your
the
favorite
Yankees.
team, man.
But wouldn't the worst thing be to get to the World Series and lose, though?
Yeah, I mean,
what it's
it's the long con. That's
Who do
all
you-
it
who
is.
do
You're
we
not
like?
pulling for the Dodgers, though.
I'm
are
not
you?
I'm not pulling for the Dodgers. I'm just pulling against the Yankees.
I'm pulling for the Dodgers.
I gotta go with the Dodgers. Also, I read this stat today. Shohei Ohtani is batting .818 in his last 22 at bats with runners in scoring position. Not slugging. He's 18 of 22 for .818 in his last 22 at bats.
That's otherworldly.
Like, come on, man.
That's why, again, look, two organizations that spend a ton of money on their roster. We know that. The Dodgers, basically gave half of California to Shohei Ohtani, and he may be worth more than that. He keeps going 18 for 22 a runners in scoring position. But I do like the Dodgers pitching in a 7-game series to come through for him. Typically, these games are going to be more low-scoring than what people think. I do think the Dodgers are going to win. I think they're going to win it in 6. But I tell you, if you're, it's funny, as a Braves fan, I don't like either one of these organizations. I'd rather have the Yankees in there than the Mets. I know they're in opposite leagues. But, you're not supposed to like either one of them. If I have to pick the lesser of two evils, I was born in 1989. I was Braves.
I want to read this beautiful open if the audio's messed up.
You can only do so much.
I guess, look, I just got to ride the lightning. The Yankees, as we said, play the Dodgers in the World Series. Alabama falls out of the top 10. We're going to give you the right college football top 10, and we preview Texas A&M in a huge matchup at home this weekend for some fighting Tigers from LSU. I'm Jay Crain, and welcome to the best sports show since there were sports or shows. It's Crain and Company. A good amount of Alabama fans are absolutely freaking out about Kalen DeBoer after Bama dropped their second game before November started. That's the last time since 2007 since that happened, which might as well be 1907, and they rightfully should be upset. Alabama's been one of the teams that's a gold standard of college football for some time now, but for the fans screaming they want Saban back, pump the brakes a little bit, because I don't even think Nick Saban could replicate what Nick Saban did for a long stretch the way the game is now. That isn't to say DeBoer needs to be let off the hook. He doesn't. But let's not forget, Saban's team struggled with on-the-field discipline and penalties down the stretch as well. But as we've said before, when things were going wrong when Nick Saban was there, he had built up enough equity with the Alabama fan base where the heat wasn't nearly as hot because they knew he could fix it. And most of the time, he did in a big way. But that equity is not there with Kalen DeBoer. He not only hasn't proven he can improve this ship so far, he also hasn't proven that he can fix it, which leaves Alabama fans in a state of unease and uncertainty, which is new for them and, to be honest with you, is probably pretty jarring. Now, as far as his style, DeBoer has to do it his way, which you can tell is vastly different than Nick Saban's. They're shooting jump shots in the middle of plays. But if Bama was winning and playing well, the celebrations and loose grip he seems to have with discipline on the team would be a point of positivity for Alabama fans. But since he isn't winning at the normal rate, it's become the focal point of frustration. The season is still young, and if DeBoer turns it around, it will go back to status quo with sunshine and rainbows and candy canes. But until then, the dark cloud will remain, and the questions and qualms will only get louder. But if you look around the sport, it seems the days of monopolizing it with one team are over. And at this point in our game, I don't even think Nick Saban could do what Nick Saban did. We bring in former Michigan quarterback David Cohn, my brother, former Western State Colorado wide receiver Blaine Crain. And David, I got a two-parter for you opening here. One, what do you think is the appropriate level of freakout for Alabama fans right now? Where we stand, state of the race, whatever you want to call it. And two, do you agree with me that the days of being able to dominate from a personnel standpoint and a discipline standpoint, the way that Nick Saban did, are over because you just don't have as much control anymore?
Yeah, I think you're right about that. But I see this as an incredible opportunity for Kalen DeBoer and his staff. Every coach is going to be celebrated when things are going well, when you're winning every single football game. And to your point, some of the things that are going wrong right now are not necessarily new for Alabama. The Crimson Tide were one of the most penalized teams in the conference the last couple years of Nick Saban. But the thing was, he was always able to right the ship during these weeks, week 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, keep in mind, Alabama was not elite on either side of the football last year, and they're one play away from making the national championship. That's the difference. That's the Saban difference. Kalen DeBoer, you have that opportunity right now. 2 losses already. Okay, you get to host Missouri this week in a top 25 matchup. Great. Go out and beat them. There's a reason the spread's 13.5, right? You get to go on the road and play LSU. Beat them. They're at the top of the conference right now. Go win that football game. You get to go on the road and play Oklahoma. You get a chance to beat your biggest rival in the sport at home in the Iron Bowl. You went out, you're going to play in the college football playoff. And this is happening right now in real time as you're the beneficiary of a playoff that's tripled in size. And you're not necessarily even out of the conference championship race, even though that one's going to be a little bit tougher. But go with your back against the wall right now. 2 losses, win out, and you'll make the college football playoff. And then from there, let's see what happens.
Which would include a win at LSU. I mean, you could really get the confidence back. And by no means am I saying this season's over, you should throw it away. But Blaine, to my original point, with Nick Saban, very rarely was Alabama out-personneled. Very rarely were they out-coached. But I've never seen an Alabama team that's more vulnerable to being out-personneled and out-coached as a combination in a game. But Nick Saban would always have the right medicine. He would have the right antidote to be able to, when it came down to crunch time in these big games, Alabama, and not every time because nobody's perfect, but they would make the plays more than they haven't. They did against Georgia, which is what I think gave Alabama fans so much hope that, hey, our closing ability hasn't changed. It's just a new name on the mail. But now after the Vanderbilt game, you're not able to come back and close it out at the end. And then the Tennessee game, you're not able to come back and close it out at the end. Why should Alabama fans have faith in Kalen DeBoer? Right?
I don't know. I mean, you can have faith in what his record was before he got here. I mean, his resume is one of the best, but sooner or later, the losses and who they're against is what worries me. Obviously, Vanderbilt's not the same team we're used to seeing, but
still Vanderbilt
is still Vanderbilt, right? And you almost lost to a South Carolina team that had, on the offensive side has not looked great. Their defense is good. And this week, you lose to a Tennessee team from the last 3 games, hadn't scored a point in the first half. So, and the way you're losing, you brought up Nick Saban, even in these games where they're penalized or the close games, they would always find a way. They'd always do what they needed to do to get the win, and that's culture, and that's something Nick Saban has been able to build up over time. But Kalen DeBoer, you knew when you took this job that you didn't have that type of time. You don't have chances to build up equity. You took an absolute castle of something beautiful that's been on top of college football for years and years, and you knew at the first sign of something going bad, everything was going to point to you. And now that's happened twice. So if it happens again, if you lose 3 games right now, we can all sit here and agree that you're probably out of the playoffs.
Yeah,
you're probably out of the playoffs.
9-3, you're out.
The real trouble comes if you lose another one. 1, who's going to stay around and keep playing hard for you? And 2, then what do the fans do? Once you get out of the playoff realm is when the real conversation of trouble starts.
And Alabama's not used to being in that world.
No, they're not. Alabama's not used to being in this world.
Yeah, and before the season, and you can go back and look, and we talked about this at nauseum because it's the truth. Everybody said, how do you think Kalen DeBoer is going to do? How's his tenure going to be at Alabama? And I said, I think his tenure will be defined by the level of freak out and how he responds to the first time everybody freaks out at Alabama. And we're seeing that right now. And I actually think they're probably going to roll Missouri. I don't think Missouri's that good, to be honest with you. I know Brady Cook came back, and we're going to get into that, later in the week. But as I said before the season, all that stuff that he did before, when I would have Alabama fans say, oh, well, look what he did at Washington, and we know he's going to be elite because of this. None of what you did at Washington matters to any Alabama fan that has been around lately. None of that matters. That did nothing for you if you're an Alabama fan. If I'm an Alabama fan, him doing well at Washington, beating Oregon, that's great. You've lost to Vanderbilt and now Tennessee. You're 0-2 in the state of Tennessee, right? In your first year here at Alabama, you're sitting at what, 4-2? Alabama's 4-2 right now, 5-2, whatever it is. So all the stuff in the past at Sioux Falls, at Washington, at Medina High School, wherever, none of that matters anymore. It is about what have you done for the Alabama fans. And thank goodness, David, thank goodness Ryan Williams made that play late in that Georgia game. Yeah. Or it would be, I mean, you live in the house. I mean, you live with an Alabama legacy. Oh, I live with a girl that's from Tuscaloosa. I know how they are, and watching them this year, it's, you know, we talk about it in politics. What are the polls saying? What are the polls saying? Well, buddy, the polls just came back, and they don't like you very much right now.
Yeah, so 5-2 right now on the year, and that's the most perplexing part is that first half against Georgia, they look like a perfect football team on both sides of the ball, not just one. Yeah. On both sides of the football, they look like a team that I think you could have penciled in for the national championship. And ever since then, man, things have been pretty ugly, particularly in the second half of games. You look at the second half of that game, right? Yeah. Georgia storms back. The second half of South Carolina, you almost give that thing away late, and there's an onside kick that you're not able to recover. You talked about you played a Tennessee team that was shut out in the first half of the two previous games. You shut them out in the first half. Yeah. It was 3 games in a row. Second half, Tennessee storms back. Like, that's what's a little bit concerning.
And that's the opposite of what we saw with Nick Saban and his staff. I mean, we talk about what are the best coaches are the ones that can adjust. You've got to be a chiropractor. It's all about adjustments in game. And Alabama has kind of regressed there. Not that they can't fix it. They still got really good personnel. And I want to make this point before we get to the chat. You know, I know we got to get to other stuff as well. Does it seem to anybody else, and I was talking about this on the radio this morning, that Jalen Milroe, it's almost like he's made the conscious decision, maybe we're not that great defensively or as a team. Now I've got to go play hero ball. And every snap, I've got to make a heroic play, as opposed to when you go back and you watch the Georgia tape, not only the Georgia tape, but the Wisconsin tape. He's just taking what they're giving him. If you're going to give me the 5-yard hitch, I'm going to take it. We'll never go broke making a profit. Even if I got to check it down or if I got to take off and get 3 yards and we got to live in 2nd and 7, that's fine. And you mix that in with the quarterback design runs, the power read. But where it comes into handy is when you're not able to run the ball super successfully, including being Jalen Milroe. Will you still be mature enough to say, you know what, we'll matriculate the ball down the field. I don't have to go just say, you know what, I'm going to throw it to Ryan Williams on this play regardless, or I'm going to take a shot regardless. David, I feel like from the quarterback position, he's playing a little bit of hero ball, and it's not all on him. He's one of the main reasons they're staying in these games. But whenever you're facing mixed coverages or zone coverages, you can't go out there with that mindset. It's like swinging at every pitch. When you get in the batter's box, you may square up a couple and hit a couple home runs, but you're going to strike out a lot.
I honestly just feel like the quality of opponent you're playing has increased and been better. I mean, I know that feels weird to say when we just watched a Georgia team shut out Texas in the first half, and that was the best Alabama looked was against that same Georgia defense. That's why college football is so weird right now. But this Tennessee defense is elite, right? I mean, even the South Carolina defense, when you played them, great players. You've been talking about their defensive front seven all season long. I just feel like the quality of defense has improved. What do you think?
No, I would agree, especially these last couple of weeks. But at no point should you be throwing it 45 times in a football game.
Yeah.
That's just not who you are. And I know situation dictates circumstances.
RPOs sometimes.
Yeah, but I didn't feel like they did a lot of RPOs in that Tennessee game. Like it's your job as a play caller to put him in the best situations. And sometimes when the run's not working out, that doesn't mean you just go away from it for the entire game. You have to have some sort of balance. And Jalen Milroe is at his best when his run game is like design quarterback runs are getting called for him. And there just haven't been enough of that the last couple weeks.
Not to interrupt you, I just wanted to ask one point before I forgot, because we didn't get to this in the recap. Just from a coaching perspective, because both you guys coached, Alabama has the football with 1:55 left at the end of that game. It was 4th and 22. You're in minus territory. Would you have punted that football with the 3 timeouts, even though you're under the 2-minute warning? Would you have punted that football or gone for it on the 4th and 20 plus? Remember, they ended up running the tailback screen. It wasn't technically a screen because Ryan Williams didn't block, but either way, didn't even push the football down the field. Ended up Tennessee kicked a field goal to go up 7. What were you guys thinking on that?
I'd have to remember the exact yard mark they were on, but I would go for it because I have Jalen Milroe at quarterback. and he can make explosive plays.
What were you thinking on that one?
Well, to me, I think you have to go for it just looking at the score and what you're down because, at that point, if you're down 3 points, it's a little bit of a different story. I felt like just with the time remaining, with the way the momentum was going, you had to go for it. Maybe you get a pass interference call or something like that. I thought that was the right choice. As far as what Blaine was saying from a play calling standpoint, I agree 100%. Jalen Milroe does not need to live in a world where you're not that he can't throw, but a lot of quarterbacks don't. Most quarterbacks don't. Outside of the air raid offense that Mike Leach coached, if you're we talked about this with Georgia. Why are you throwing the ball 40 times a game when at the end of the day, not that you say, all right, I'm just going to run my head to a brick wall, but also Alabama has an advantage that most teams don't have at quarterback. They have Jalen Milroe, who's one of the best running backs on the field at quarterback at all times. So you can get that extra blocker out there as opposed to Carson Beck. You really don't want him to be running a lot of power read or Q power at the end of the day.
And I feel like we've had this conversation before.
We did last year. You remember what game it was? The Alabama lost to Texas at home.
Texas. We've had this conversation before. So and I know Nick Sheridan knows what he's doing, and he doesn't want him out here throwing 45 times. But I think Jalen does have to make the conscious decision on the RPOs or whatever it is. I don't need to prove anything to anybody. Just make the right decision.
Well, and kudos to Tennessee for putting them in that position. Being able to stop the run at that rate to where now they have to kind of dribble with their left a little bit or go against what they typically want to do in early downs that throw them off schedule. So we got to make sure and give Tennessee our flowers. It's just an interesting time in Alabama right now because the guy that always fixed it when it rarely did break is not there anymore. Now you got a new mechanic in town and you haven't seen him operate on or work on the car yet, which is going to be interesting. But you want to win, you need to be responsible. And we all want to win in all aspects of life, including health. Right now, we typically don't get all the vitamins we need. I know I don't. Our diets nowadays with all processed foods and all that stuff, you need a way to supplement yourself, and that's where our friends at Responsible Man come in. It is a multivitamin. It's packed with 33, that's right, you heard it, 33 key ingredients that support your immune system, sharpen your brain, and keep your heart and muscles strong. Men, if you want to, put yourself in the best position to live as long as humanly possible, you've got to continue to take care of your body. We take them every single day. David's got the beautiful minty smell of them over there. They don't smell like an old leather book.
Hey, I got them too.
You got them too. Blaine's got them over there. Appreciate you being relevant over here. And right now, you can take advantage of Responsible Man's fall sale and get 50% off your order or just $19.99 on your first order. Just head over to responsibleman.com. Use code BOOSTER at checkout, but hurry. This deal will not last long. Remember, a strong America needs strong men.
Yeah.
Strong men need to be healthy. And that starts with Responsible Man. ResponsibleMan.com. Use code BOOSTER to get way, way better than you are right now. All right, let's get to the chat.
All right, chat, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you donate, it's on topic. It will get read. We're going to start the day off with Big Rick. What's up, Rick? He says, how is this any different from Saban's 2007 season? He started 3-0 and finished 7-6 if you include the bowl win with a 4-game losing streak.
Big Rick, I feel like this is a little bit of a cope from you here because I think deep down you know the difference in the team that Nick Saban inherited after the former coach and the coaches before that were all fired into the sun as opposed to what Kalen DeBoer inherited when the greatest coach of all time decided to retire and handed the keys over to one of the best personnel teams in the country, including a Heisman prospect at quarterback. So I actually think, and I've said this before, comparing this team to Nick Saban's first team that lost to La Monroe is really disrespectful to Nick Saban because what he did to get Alabama to where they're at now, you kind of weaken that when you compare what Kalen DeBoer inherited to what Nick Saban inherited. Now, did what Kalen DeBoer inherited, is it perfect? Was it the best and better than everybody else's? In some respects, yes. In others, no. But to try and compare the team, just go look at the roster that Nick Saban inherited in his first year compared to this one is not even close. And it may make you feel better until you really start to think about it. And then you're going to feel worse because you know you're trying to make up for feeling bad.
It is worth saying, like, in a perfect scenario with the style of offense that Kalen DeBoer would like to run, he probably would recruit somewhat different players, especially at the quarterback position. Like Jalen Milroe and Michael Penix Jr. are not the same type of guy. But at the same time, we're still talking about a quarterback that has elite talents in other areas, like his mobility, and finished 6th in the Heisman Trophy voting last year. So there are worse scenarios to be able to come in. Plus, he started last year, so it's not like you're coming in having to start a brand new quarterback.
Yeah, and look at the line of scrimmage. Just go look at that roster on the line of scrimmage and go look at this roster on the line of scrimmage, and it's not even close.
Let's go to Mad Speed, and he says Bama peaked in the first half versus Georgia, and they've gotten worse every week since. That's what I would be worried about.
I mean, it's a valid point. I mean, if you think about it, the second half of the Georgia game and really on up into this point, Alabama's been playing some of its worst football from a complimentary standpoint. And, you try and go back and try and say it's exactly this or it's exactly that. And it's hard with Alabama because I think it's multiple things right now, which is something we didn't think we'd be saying.
Let's go to Jan B. He says, does Milroe stare down his wide receiver too long when the number one wide receiver is covered, which causes too many interceptions instead of going through his progressions or trying to manipulate the safety off his go-to receiver?
Go ahead.
Well, particularly when it's zone coverage.
That's what I was
we've been talking about. I mean, even last year you can go back when it's man coverage. Either that first guy wins on a route and he hits him, or he can even bounce through progressions because it's a little bit easier. You know which guy is on which player, and you just hit which one's open. And if no one's open, it's easier to take off and scramble against man coverage. When it's zone, man, those are the scenarios where you can get him.
Yeah, it's like reading easy words, and then it's like sometimes you're reading something, there's like a big word in there, you got to look down twice at. That's kind of what I feel like with Jalen Milroe when he sees zone coverage. Either he doesn't trust it to let it go right away when it doesn't present itself, or he's kind of worried about, are the clocks different in his head, and it's when he sees man as opposed to zone. So I think there is a there.
Let's go to Tim Bob. He says, I think Alabama will be fine. This is practically a soft rebuild for this team this year. What's a softer rebuild?
Well, I mean, I think Alabama's going to be fine in the long run, but my definition of fine and what those fans think is fine are probably a little bit different. Again, when we're talking about Alabama, we're talking about the gold standard. We are talking about the precipice of expectation, not, hey, man, we almost made the playoff this year. That's fine. Let's shake hands and go eat a steak together afterwards. That ain't how it works.
So I got his answer. He says, because this coaching staff is different with different philosophies, they have to have time to imprint their own flair to this organization.
Which, if that's what Alabama fans think, if that's how they're going to feel about Kalen DeBoer moving forward, that's really interesting. That's surprising because I didn't think.
I think that's in the minority.
I think that's a minority.
I think you're an optimist, is what I think.
One of the best questions we got in the offseason was, and I can't remember who asked it, but they called it and asked, do you think it's more likely that Kalen DeBoer wins a national championship this year, coming in year one, you're hot, the book's not out on you necessarily so much at a new place, and you have all of Nick Saban's players plus Jalen Milroe returning, or that he would win a national championship in the next 5 years after he recruits his players? Someone asked us that. I thought that was one of the better questions.
It is because people say if you can't win with Nick Saban's guys, how are you going to be able to win with your guys? Which I think kind of argue both sides of that.
Yeah, and it goes, if you're not winning with Nick Saban guys, that means you're losing and probably not getting the same recruit you would get.
Remember, if you donate and it's on topic, it will get read. If not, it won't. All right, last one, then we're going to move on.
Okay, let's go to Dale Barnes. What's up, Dale? He says, Alabama fans have been living effectively in football paradise for a year.
Yeah.
The season isn't their coach's fault. It's just simply a wake-up call back to reality.
Well, what a great gig if it's not the coach's fault. That's the way I always look at it. When they don't blame the coach, okay. All right, I'm sure Kalen DeBoer would love that. He would love to hear it. It's not his fault. It's the fans' fault.
It's reality.
It's your fault. It's your fault for wanting to do so good because you've been doing so good for so long. All right, David, let's move on.
All right, top 10, boys. Let's put out our top 10.
This one, I think we can all agree this was the hardest collective top 10 that we've ever done.
I would agree with that.
Lisa, I think it is. And not so much at the top. You can still throw some questions in there. But once you get to 4 on. So if you're on radio, I'm going to read from 1 to 10. Number 1 in the Crain and Company top 10 of truth and realism is Oregon. I think they got to be right now. You had a big win against Ohio State. You've handled business everywhere else. So right now in this state and time, you got an interesting one with Illinois coming up. We're going to go Oregon. Then we got Georgia at 2, ahead of Penn State at 3. And yes, Penn State is undefeated. We've got a lot of respect for Penn State. But Georgia's sitting there, right? One loss on the road, last second at Alabama, which is still, even though they lost 2 games, a quality loss. But you've also beaten Clemson to death, who's looking a lot better. I know they hadn't played near the level of competition against Georgia. And then you just went and beat Texas by double digits on the road, which to me, that's the best win of college football so far, is Georgia going to beat Texas on the road. Because remember, when Georgia played Clemson, that was a neutral site game. This was actually on the road. So we got Georgia 2, Penn State 3, Ohio State 4. All right. And I can understand people having some qualms with that. I really can. Because your one big game you played, you lost, even though it was tight. Dan Lanning pulled a genius move on you. We got them at 4. And then here's where it gets wonky. So we did this list based on who we think are the top 10 best teams. Not if you're undefeated, you automatically get put up in the spot. The top 10 best teams. Tennessee at number 5. And before you freak out, whatever, and say, well, Texas should be number 5 or Miami should be 5 or whatever, to me, David, Tennessee is number 5 because, yes, you did lose to Arkansas on the road, okay? But you just beat Alabama at home. You've shown the ability to have an elite defense, and you've played in some tough games. Who has Texas beaten compared to who Tennessee's beaten?
That's why this list was so tough, because really past Oregon, to me, like you can make a case for every single team to move back
100%.
Or to move up. I mean, you could put Clemson there at 5. We were thinking about that for a little bit. You can move the Buckeyes back because their strength of schedule was so weak before they played Oregon, but then they only lost by 1 on the road. Like every single person you can move around. I just think that, Tennessee, while they've struggled on offense, like Tennessee, Miami right this second would be a great football game.
Without a doubt.
Like Texas and Clemson right now, like I don't know who would win. Like that'd be a great football game. Now, one point you were making on Clemson is, since they lost to Georgia, their strength of schedule hasn't been.
Yeah, played nobody.
Yeah, and that kind of factors in.
But you did have Georgia. It was 6-0 at half.
It was.
The dam broke in the second half. We can't forget how that game went. All right, moving on at 6, we have Texas. Right, we still respect the Michigan win. I'm not trying to down that, and even the Oklahoma one, it was a rivalry game. But after watching what South Carolina did to Oklahoma, it kind of diminishes that one. And then Miami at 7. And before the Miami fans start bitching and complaining, we know you're undefeated. But deep down, do we think Miami is a balanced team, Blaine? Do we think Miami is a top 5 team in the country? If they got to go, they can win a game offensively. I don't think they can win one defensively. And eventually, whether it's playing Tennessee or Clemson, or Georgia, or Oregon, or Ohio State, or Penn State, the jump shots aren't going to be going in at the level that they're going in.
You wouldn't think, but they keep going in.
But who have they played, though? You sat here and said Clemson hadn't played anybody.
You said Clemson. Who's Clemson played?
Georgia.
What happened?
They were down 6-0 at halftime and ended up losing.
I'm okay. I'm done with the halftime talks. I don't care what the score was at halftime. You lost by 30.
So Miami cannot play anybody compared to these other people and barely win, and you would put them where?
I feel you would put, from a comfortability standpoint, yeah, I get it for the top teams. But for Clemson, I don't know that. Clemson hadn't shown me that they're good enough to beat Miami.
How has Miami shown you they're good enough to beat Clemson? Who has Miami beaten that is close to Clemson?
No, that's the thing. But
then that makes no sense.
But no, you said you like Clemson over Miami.
On a neutral site right now, I think Clemson would beat.
It'd be a pick'em to me. That's what it'd be. It'd be a pick'em.
Okay,
we may get that in the ACC championship.
Yeah,
I actually hope we get that.
That's where we're headed.
That's what I'm hoping. So
I feel like Miami could play with a team like Tennessee because I think Tennessee's offense is that bad.
Nobody is saying that they can't play with them. It's what have you proven so far? What do I know about Tennessee? Well, I've watched them play in some pretty big games. I know they're damn good on defense, maybe the best defense in the country. I know that Nico's going to continue to get better. They took shots down the field against Alabama. He's going to start hitting more and more of those as the confidence grows. So I think there's more balance on Tennessee. Here's what I know about Miami. Cam Ward and Restrepo and Damian Martinez and that offense is nasty. It is nasty, son. But that defense is gross and not in a good way. I think Tennessee could run the ball all over Miami. They'd be open everywhere down the field because the run game will be working. I think Tennessee's defense has a better chance of stopping Miami's offense than Miami's offense has of going out there and balling.
One conversation. It's how much does strength of schedule matter when it comes to being undefeated and losses?
I like strength of schedule.
Right? That's what it comes down to.
And that's why I didn't really put up that much of a fight when it came to Penn State. It's more than just, who do you think would win the football game? I think it'd be a great football game, but I do think it's worth saying that, yeah, Georgia has played Clemson and played Texas on the road and played Alabama. Not one of those games was at home. Like, that's worth something.
It's 100%. You can't on one hand knock somebody's schedule and say, oh, it's easy, you're not very good. And then on the other hand, punish somebody for losing one game in a really tough schedule. To me, the answer is somewhere in the middle. But then it gets even tougher, all right, because you got BYU out there. You got Iowa State out there, right? You've got Army and you've got Navy. We got LSU at 9. And we went back and forth on should we put LSU there? Should we put Texas A&M there? I know the loss to USC, right, is looking worse and worse by the week for LSU. But they've also beaten Ole Miss. They just went on the road and handled Arkansas. And when you look at where this team is and where this defense is now, with what Weeks is doing, even after all the personnel losses, LSU is playing better complementary football right now than I can remember them playing in the last 3 years. So we decided to go LSU at 9. They go to Kyle Field this weekend. They lose that one.
Who we had at 11, right?
Who we had 11. We had A&M right there at 11.
9 and 11 play this weekend.
And then at 10. They showed me something this weekend. We knew. We've been gassing up Signetti, right? Vomit on his sweater already. Mom spaghetti. But that game against Nebraska, and I know Nebraska isn't world beaters, but Indiana's for real. Yeah. Like, they got, like, players. We were like, oh, strength of schedule. Maybe they're just making these plays against some lesser. What they did to Nebraska, they treated Nebraska like FCS Southeast in the video game. Beat them to death. And the confidence and ability. They've got talented players. And we were asking this question, is Indiana about to go 11-1?
They really can.
I mean, they're that good. They're a top 10 team.
Like, they could go 11-1.
They're a top 10 team.
Yeah, no, Indiana's good. Whose was their best win? Was their best win this weekend?
Yeah,
I think it was. I think it was
56-7.
I mean, so if Indiana played BYU on a neutral field, it'd be a hell of a game. I would slightly go with Indiana.
I think I would too. I think I'd take Indiana over Iowa State right now.
I would as well.
That sort of was where we were rounding out like the top 12 and 13. Would you put Iowa State above BYU right now or below BYU?
Man,
they don't play in the regular season either.
I would see. I feel like you could be right with either, and I know Iowa, is Iowa. But something about Iowa State, I like. BYU, though, with Retzlaff, he's not turning the ball over at the rate he was. They're making big-time plays. That one's a pick 'em to me. I think on a neutral side, I wouldn't bet it. I wouldn't bet the game because I think it's a true pick 'em. You could have a legitimate argument that's equal there. But let's get to the chat, see what they think. I'm sure they all agree.
Let's go to Geox Harder. He says, how in the hell do you have Tennessee at number 5? Make it make sense.
I think I just did.
The entire thing?
Tennessee being at number 5. We just had a long conversation about it.
All right, let's go to Matthew Thompson. What's up, Matt? Penn State playing Bowling Green and Kent State. Not exactly a tough schedule, and USC isn't a good program. I realize them being number 3 is okay.
Yeah, that's why we had them at number 3. And listen, I think Penn State's a problem. What Kotelnicki's done since he's gotten there with Drew Aller, they've opened it up. Traveling across the world to play USC and winning that game on the road was big. They're going to get their shot. Penn State, you want your shot at the big game? It's coming. You got to go to Wisconsin this weekend, and that Wisconsin game looks a lot different than it did a couple weeks ago. But you keep stacking wins, you're going to get Ohio State at home, and that's when you can make it.
So I guess here's a question, too, because we didn't get far enough along to get to Notre Dame. But at this point, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Notre Dame has the head-to-head and only has one loss. So that's where that conversation gets really interesting. But your loss is to Northern Illinois.
Yeah, and I'll always go with the head-to-head. That's one of the things we were talking about. But I firmly believe in watching Notre Dame, and we can say what we want about Wegman coming back. We're going to talk about that game. I think there's a good chance they go down to Navy this weekend. I just don't think this team I'm telling you, man, they got to play Navy and Army. I mean, coming down the stretch here, I think there's a decent chance Navy wins this game. I just don't think Notre Dame, they were able to sneak by that first week against A&M with Wegman playing like that, and they were able to survive. I just don't know if Notre Dame's going to be able to survive that way. I don't think they're balanced. I think they're reverse Miami to me.
Let's go to Bill. What's up, Bill? He says, y'all are losing credibility, fellows. LSU at 9 is an absolute joke. Number 5 is where they should be.
LSU up at 5?
Mm-hmm.
Man, before this win last weekend.
So let's run this out. So if you're saying that we're losing credibility because we didn't put LSU at number 5, who has the better win between LSU or Tennessee? Who has the best win? Who has the best one? I would say Tennessee, right? Beating Alabama. What's LSU's best win?
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's somewhat comparable. But I would say Tennessee has a better win. Who has the worst loss? Tennessee to Arkansas or LSU to USC? I'd probably say LSU to USC right now. So why should we put LSU ahead of Tennessee when Tennessee has a better win, even though it may not be by a lot, and a better loss, even though it may not be by a lot? I don't understand that. I think you're just a fan of LSU.
It's going to bleed orange and green. He says, love the SEC, but Miami kills an SEC team and beat Ball State 62-0. And Vandy was in a dogfight with Ball State. Miami is better than what you think.
Man, I wouldn't really be bringing up Ball State when we're like comparing the top 10 teams.
Yeah, I think that's a weird way to use the transitive property. So if I had put Vandy in front of Miami, or if I had put Florida in front of Miami, you would have an argument. But if your argument is that since Miami beat Florida really badly, that they're just better than every other SEC team, that doesn't hold water at all in the slightest. Miami's got a chance to do some big things. But deep down, if you're a Miami fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can get on here and talk trash and say this or say that. But deep down, you know that defense is a problem. And it's going to rear its head eventually. Now, we have Miami at 7. I think that's about where they should be. I think the AP, had them at 6. So we're not disrespecting Miami at any point. But when you look at that schedule, to sit here and tie in Florida to the top teams of the SEC, I feel a stretch. If you're going to try and make an argument, make one a little bit better than that.
All right, let's go to JH. What's up, man? He says, guys, huge Tennessee fans, but I would feel like our loss to Arkansas is way worse than LSU's loss against USC.
How would that be way worse? How would it be way worse? Tennessee went on the road, right? LSU, that was a neutral site game.
USC's 3-4 right now.
Yeah, with losses to Maryland, Minnesota, right? Who's Arkansas's losses to? Oklahoma State, which they've been a letdown. I'll give you that one.
And Texas A&M and LSU.
Texas A&M and LSU, I don't think that's comparable. But all right, let's move on. Speaking about comparable, if you're thinking about starting a business and you want to absolutely crush it, like most brands do, like Aloe, Allbirds, Skims, and some other ones, you want to think about great products, cool branding, and brilliant marketing, but there's often an overlooked secret, the businesses behind the business that make selling for shoppers and buying simple, and that is Shopify. Get asked all the time, I'm starting this podcast, I'm doing this, what's the best way to sell my stuff, get my name out there? I'm telling you guys, Shopify is the best way to do it. It's what we use here, what I used when I started out. They take so much off of your plate where you can focus on the things that matter the most to you, the content or whatever you're doing. And when you hear this noise, that means you made another sale. Like I said, our marketing team uses it every day to sell our merch. Check that out. Grab some Crain & Co stuff. We love how easy it is to add items, ship products, and track conversions. And also, they boost conversions of up to 50%, which is huge if you know what I'm saying. So if you're ready to take your business to the next level, upgrade it and get the same checkout we use with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/CRAIN, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/CRAIN to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Crain. Hit that button one more again. You'll love to see it. All right, let's get into some of these game previews.
All right, boys, we got a top 15 showdown in College Station this weekend. Texas A&M 6-1 hosting LSU 6-1. These are the only two undefeated teams in the conference right now. Texas A&M favored, -2.5 as we sit here right now, 53.5 over under.
Man, this is a hell of a game. I'm so glad this is a hell of a game, too. That atmosphere in Kyle Field is going to be electric this weekend. LSU gets a chance to go on the road again and make another statement. Whoever wins this game has really, really put themselves into the driver's seat to have a chance to not only, if you go undefeated in conference play, you're going to play in the championship. But if you do drop one down the stretch, being able to still win enough tiebreakers to be in it. This could be one where when it comes down to it, there's a lot of similarities between LSU and A&M. They could have identical records, and it goes to the head-to-head tiebreaker to determine it. So all these games are massive. We know that. As far as what's going to happen on the field, when I look at this LSU team, they are playing as balanced as I've seen them. I think this game, I got a good idea who Nussmeier is going to be. Right, I think we got enough sample size on him to feel good about him at home and on the road. He's going to make some mistakes, but he's going to get the ball out on time. He's been in big moments. He can make every throw, and he's made clutch ones. I'm interested to see what Connor Wegman we're going to get. That, to me, is going to define this game. Because I think A&M's good enough on the defensive side to give LSU problems in the run game and make them somewhat one-dimensional. But LSU will still find a way to score points because they're that athletic and that offensive line is still pretty damn good. But if the Connor Wegman that showed up against Missouri shows up at home, LSU's in a lot of trouble because that's the best version of Connor. That's the Connor Wegman we were talking about with David Pollock before the year we expected to see, which means he trusts that injury. I know last week against Mississippi State it wasn't pretty. The defense didn't look good. Said the same thing about Georgia against Mississippi State before they went over there and beat the hell out of Texas and put their best foot forward, which, make no mistake, I think both of these teams are going to put their best foot forward. But if I'm A&M and I'm on the defensive side of the ball and I'm Elko-ing them, I am heating LSU up the whole night. I am heating you up and heating you up and heating you up. You're not going to be able to run the RPO stuff because I'm going to be in the backfield, and I want to get Nussmeier off his back foot. I want to show him a lot of pressure and bring it. I want to show him a lot of pressure and bail. I want to keep him on his heels the whole game because the games where LSU has struggled or he's turned the ball over, it's been because of pressure in his face. Didn't get a ton of that last week against Arkansas, and it was smooth sailing. Run game work, play action game work, pass game work on all levels. If A&M can create havoc with pressure and then get there with 4, I think their offense is good enough to score enough against a newly balanced LSU team in defense, which Weeks is balling. I like A&M early. I'm not ready to make a pick yet, but which Connor Wegman is going to show up?
No pick yet?
No pick yet.
It's interesting you talk about Texas A&M heating up LSU because that's exactly how I feel about LSU going after Connor Wegman and getting to him. Feels like LSU right now is kind of reverse Alabama as the way that the season has gone. Started off ugly, you lose to USC, really looked terrible against South Carolina, right? One of the uglier wins that I've seen. Now the last couple of weeks really starting to put stuff together. I tell you, the win at Arkansas to me was as impressive as your home win against Ole Miss, just with all the circumstances, right? Not that those two teams are necessarily as good as each other on the rosters, but just given the circumstances. And then Texas A&M, we can say, well, the best team that you played, you lost to at Notre Dame. True. But it was the first week of the season, and I still think that defense is really good. Big shout out to Connor Wegman for bouncing back and Mike Elko for having the guts to put him in and play him, even though the other kid, Marcel Reed, came in and played really well. Right now, I'm sort of, while Texas A&M will be at home, I think LSU is a little bit more of a balanced football team. Not only balanced from offense to defense in terms of strength, but balanced in run to pass. And Nussmeier, when he's on, man, he throws NFL balls.
He does. And
it's going to be tough to beat him.
He's one of the best anticipatory throwers out there. You just go back and watch the tape when the ball leaves his hand. But sometimes when you're facing a guy that was kind of born into a football family like Garrett Nussmeier is, if you go out there and try and overcomplicate things, you're probably not going to fool him. I don't think you beat him mentally. I think you beat him by throwing his timing off and physically, because the more complicated that A&M makes this defense and any changes that they make, which Elko might, he might not, the slower you're going to play. Sometimes the best addition is subtraction. I'm all for just trying to get there with 4 guys. And they may try that early, and they may get there. But with this offensive line that LSU has, I think they're one of the few that's equipped enough to slow down just a base pass rush, 4-man pass rush from A&M. I think you heat this guy up early and often, and you beat him with simplicity and physicality. I don't think you want to get into the Pan's Labyrinth game.
Don't you think blitzing somebody is basically trying to trick them?
No.
Yep. You don't think so? Just bring a straight blitz. That can get you in trouble with a veteran quarterback, right?
No, it can. It can, and I'm not saying you blitz every time or you blitz the same way. You should, and it's not making everything easy, but my whole point is I don't think you overcomplicate this if you're A&M's defense. I think you'd have a better shot going out there and just running base stuff against a guy than going out and trying to complicate things so much that it creates busts in the secondary and then hits big plays. But as far as disguising or tricking, yeah, you show pressure from one side and bring it from the other. You show it from one side and bring it from that side. But I would pressure him in big moments, because that's what we're really talking about. We're not talking about every down. We're talking about in crucial downs. In crucial downs, I would show a pressure look pre-snap almost every time against this guy.
Well, all we talked about with this Texas A&M team before the season started was how good they were in the front seven, how good they are in the box. This game will come down to, will LSU's offense good enough to push around A&M's front seven? And if you're A&M, trust me, the last thing you want to do is blitz Nussmeier. I think that will get you in trouble. If you can get to him or at least cause pressure or uncomfortability to him with bringing 4, God, that's just a dream you want to live in. You want to stay there if you can do that. But no one seemed to be able to do that against LSU this year.
Yes, we have.
And I don't think you're going to be able to do that either. So, yeah, you can heat him up. You just see Nussmeier to get almost too anticipatory. That's where he somewhat gets in trouble. The run game from LSU has not been great. Obviously, this game is at Cal Field, which was ranked the hardest place to go play. That place is going to be absolutely electric. This is going to come down to, one, is Connor Wegman that guy? Right? You brought him in, you took him out, and he got hurt. You brought another kid in who did have success. Look, Wegman did not look good in that Mississippi State game. Even in that win, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, but I wasn't impressed. You're about to play a guy on the other side who's experienced, who has weapons on the outside, and I like Cade at running back, but Wegman has to be the guy to go win you this game at home. I think your defense is going to cause some challenges for LSU on offense, but sooner or later, your offense and that quarterback is going to have to come win you this football game. The same way we talked about Tennessee, Alabama. Nico in the second half made the plays he had to make to go win the game. And sooner or later, Connor Wegman's going to have to do the same thing.
David, I know we got to move on, but quickly, I think there's a little hidden factoid in this game. Which quarterback, they're both not great runners, they're good runners. Which quarterback can extend drives on third down when the play breaks down by recognizing man coverage or recognizing green grass and realizing, hey, let me just run the 7 yards, get out of bounds, let's get the first down. In a game that's going to be decided on the margins like this one, that's going to be very few drives that separate them, which quarterback can extend the drive with his legs?
I would say that'd be Connor Wegman.
Yeah. And what team can run the football?
And what team can turn around? I think it may be a stalemate from a run game standpoint. I think both these defenses could stop the other one's run game pretty decent.
All right, let's go to Oregon hosting Illinois. Oregon, obviously 7-0, number 1 team in the country, going to host Illinois 6-1, big win over Michigan. That line right now is minus 25 Oregon.
It's minus 25.
Make it make sense to me right now.
I mean,
Over
I think
under
you would
54
have
and a
to
half.
take Illinois plus 25. But I tell you, and a lot of people are going to be hot on Illinois. We gave them their flowers. It was a nice win against Michigan. This Oregon team, though, again, coming off an early week game against Purdue, they got an extra day of preparation. As far as Illinois, I really don't think that's going to matter because this Oregon offense is explosive, right? Illinois was able to fight Michigan in a phone booth because Michigan has to fight in a phone booth. Oregon doesn't fight you in a phone booth. They fight you in a downtown of a major city, right? They can go down one block and disappear, right? The run game can work. And not just the run game at the running back. Dylan Gabriel can be effective running the ball. So the RPO is a problem. The zone read's a problem. But the way they're able to spit it to the outside, get their guys in space, make you have to tackle in space as opposed to having to tackle in the box when guys cut back and this, that, and the other. I feel like Oregon's athleticism and their explosive ability on offense will be too much for Illinois in the long run. I do think Luke Altmaier and them will be able to move the ball somewhat against this Oregon team, throwing it around. I know it wasn't sexy for them against Michigan, but that was the style of game that they had to play against Michigan to win. The difference is I think Oregon can hit explosive plays against Illinois that will make Illinois have to come back, not be able to play it safe and play with the lead, which is going to put the ball in harm's way because Luke Altmaier is going to have to do it. That'll lead to some turnovers late. I don't think Oregon covers the 25, but I like them to cover at least 16.5 in this game.
Blaine, here was the box score from Illinois against Michigan's defense. They rushed for 187, and Luke Altmaier was 9 of 18 for 80 yards and a touchdown.
I know. You look at that, and I know Michigan on offense, I mean, you're about as good as a paraplegic. I get it, but you give up 49 against Purdue, and Oregon has played them give up 0. You know, it's like some of these games, and like the one you go play at Penn State, as good as that offense is, you lose 21-7. So I think this line it started at 25, but right now I'm seeing it it's already bet down to 21 and 22. This feels like everybody wants it to be close, and Illinois is a great story, but I wouldn't be surprised if Oregon just kicks their ass.
Yeah, well, the inconsistency that you bring up from Illinois has been a little bit of a problem. I know they're 6-1, right? That's a hell of an inconsistent. Where you're 6-1, I would love to be there.
Yeah, but that overtime Nebraska win doesn't look great anymore.
No, I get that, but if I'm making the consistency argument because I think Oregon is finding consistency. I think that's one of the things that is going to give them a chance to maybe separate is that we know who they are and they can continue to play this way and maybe even get better as the year goes on. But I just don't think in a game like this that Illinois is equipped to be able to keep up with Oregon's ability to score, because it's so much different than what you just saw in that Michigan game, the way Will Stein goes about it, the way Dylan Gabriel's going to go about it, the way they can affect you down the field, and what that does to your safeties, what that does to your nickel when it comes to the run game, and as much spread out personnel as you're going to get from Oregon with a great tight end. Oregon's got one of the best tight ends in the country who I think is going to be a factor in this game. I just don't think Illinois has enough firepower on offense.
If you're Illinois, would you rather this game be a shootout or low scoring?
Low scoring. 100% low scoring.
God, man, it's just crazy to think Fagan, their leading rusher right now, has 300 yards, and James has 700-plus yards for Oregon. And usually Illinois is a team that runs the football.
And another factor is this being at Oregon. I don't just mean from a home field advantage, but we've seen so far in this new Big Ten where teams are having to go 3 different time zones, like I think only 3 times has the team that's had to go all the way across the country won. One of those was Oregon going to Purdue, 35-0.
It just feels like Oregon's starting to feel themselves a little bit.
Yeah, no, for real. That game against the Buckeyes, I think, really ramped them up. All right, let's go to Vanderbilt hosting Texas now. Texas, obviously, with their first loss against Georgia. This line is 18.5 Texas right now. Is that too much? Or is Texas just going to just take out all their frustrations?
I feel like it's a lot. I do feel like it's a lot, because this isn't the old, hey, Vandy's going to catch them sleeping. Texas is going to be down from this or up from that, and it's Vandy not having done anything all year that sneaks up and bites somebody. That's not what this game is. Like, I think Texas, it may be worse for them that Vanderbilt is this problem that they are, because you're kind of juxtaposed, because you're a Texas player. You're like, wow, we really got to take Vanderbilt seriously. But in the back of your mind are like, do we got to take Vanderbilt seriously? I know you're pissed off about the way the Georgia game went. Sometimes going on the road can help. We've brought that up. But when I look at this Vanderbilt team, who didn't play good against Ball State, you can call it a look ahead or whatever, but Ball State sucks. Can Vanderbilt stalemate the line of scrimmage the way they did against Alabama against this Texas team? That's what won in the game, was their ability to not be overwhelmed on the line of scrimmage. How pissed off is Texas going to be, wide-eyed, going into Vanderbilt, which they're not going to have to wait till halfway through the third quarter to fill this thing up. That place is going to be as rocking as it's ever been. But this Vanderbilt team now, to Blaine's credit, does have expectations. Now they have to be able to handle prosperity. Some people think they can win this game based on merits of Vanderbilt. Not based on the deficiencies of Texas, but based on Vanderbilt actually being pretty decent. And if you're Vandy, if I'm Clark Lee, yeah, you go about everything the way you've been going about it. But I need to remind my guys, we're playing with house money, fellas. That same feeling we had against Alabama, nobody believes that we can win. Nobody's giving us a chance. That's the same mindset you got to take in this Texas game. And I'm just interested. I think the perfect formula for Vanderbilt to find a way to win this game is by getting after Quinn Ewers early and doing nothing but adding to those calls for Arch Manning.
Yes.
Then all of a sudden, you look up halfway through the second quarter, Vandy's up 10-7. Texas just put in Arch Manning. Now you've really, really got a chance, as opposed to Quinn going out there and finding himself again in the first half. And then you look up and your pants are pulled down in front of everybody at the
Vanderbilt could push the propaganda early.
Early. You got to push it early.
You get to Quinn and you get to him early. Look, Quinn gets rattled, man. And you can see it in his eyes. And he got rattled in that Georgia game. And trust me, every Texas fan wants Arch Manning. They need Arch Manning. He can come fix it, guys. I tweeted this in the Georgia game. Arch isn't coming to save you. But I don't think Vandy wins this game. But you damn bet that Vandy will be competitive for 4 quarters.
The formula is the same for beating Alabama. You've got to sit on the ball.
Yeah.
What did they do? Time of possession. Because think about where Texas is. You're at the highest of highs. Coming in the SEC, flipping the bird to everybody. Yeah, we're riding. All right, we're about to separate ourselves. Georgia comes in, hammers you. Right? So the confidence is a little bit hit. Maybe we're not what we thought we were. Maybe this isn't what we thought it was going to be. Then all of a sudden, you're in a tight game with Vandy going into half. And then the third quarter, you're only up 3, you're only up 4. That doubt starts to get. That's when Vandy takes over. When that little bit of doubt creeps in, that's when Clark Lee and them pout like a cobra, dog. They just strike at the insecurity, and that's when Pavia starts to weigh on you. He makes the guy miss, dives, extends the ball on 3rd and 2 in what should have been a broken play to get the first down. And now you start thinking, oh no, we're going to lose. But more importantly, you know what Vandy starts thinking? We're going to win. And that's the most dangerous. I'm not picking an upset right now. I'm not making a pick right now. But the more Quinn Ewers, and everybody says, well, he's played in so many big games, he's done good and he's done bad. You know what I've learned about Quinn Ewers when it comes to big games? It's a case-by-case basis. Mm-hmm. He's not an unbelievably clutch guy. He's not a guy that chokes every time. You just don't know. And it's going to be dictated by how the first quarter goes. Because I don't think Quinn Ewers could have brought Texas back in the second half against Alabama the way that Carson Beck did. Because it seems to me that when it's going good for Quinn, it's going really good. But when it's going bad, it typically does not get better throughout a game. And if Vandy gets to him early,
that's the key. If you can get Quinn Ewers on the ground early.
You say that, man, but Oklahoma sacked him the first play of the game, and they looked terrible in the first quarter.
Yeah, I know, but they didn't keep sacking him.
Oklahoma was up 3-0. They sacked him the first play of the game. That's early. That's getting to Quinn Ewers early. They looked terrible. Oklahoma was winning. Texas blew them out in the second half. I mean, I get it. If you can keep getting to any quarterback, you're going to.
Well, what was the difference, though? What was the difference in that Texas and Oklahoma game as opposed to that Texas-Georgia game?
Well,
Oklahoma
doesn't have an offense. Yeah.
Oh, and I think Quinn knows that. I think Texas knows that. But the minute Georgia started scoring, what'd they do? They took his ass out the game.
That's the worst thing for Texas right now is the first time you faced adversity, you pulled the quarterback out.
No, that's why I thought he had to be hurt, David.
But Vanderbilt's not, I did too, but Vanderbilt's not sneaking up on anybody. Once you beat Alabama, you're not sneaking up on anybody. Yeah. So you legitimately have to just outplay your competition.
That's true.
All right. Let's get to rapid fire here. Deshaun Watson yesterday went down against the Bengals, and fans were cheering for his injury.
Yeah, listen, I know Deshaun Watson's not a perfect person. You know, we can go through the massage joke this, massage joke that. But I would never cheer for anybody to get hurt, regardless of how much you may hate a team or how much you may hate a player. I thought that was too much. And look, we've given Deshaun Watson a lot of hell, and look, he's rich. And he's guaranteed rich. That $200 million guaranteed didn't change after what happened yesterday, and he has underperformed. What I feel bad for, though, overall is just if you're a Browns fan, not the ones to where you're at the point now where you did cheer for that. That's the lowest of the low. That's the bottom of the barrel to me.
Well, do you think the Browns are better off? I mean do you think they were in a situation?
You're not better off from a money standpoint?
No.
But from a production on the field standpoint, yeah.
I mean, Dorian Thompson-Robinson came in. We've seen him play before when Deshaun Watson was hurt. We saw him play at UCLA. My question is, are they better off on the field because the coaches felt like you can't not pay Deshaun Watson because you're paying him so much money, but he's not giving you the best chance to win?
Yeah, somewhat. Yeah.
Or is that just wishful thinking?
I mean, at this point, how could it get much worse on offense? It's, again, you've made, it's one thing to make bad financial decisions, but hey, maybe your family's doing okay and everything's good. It's another thing when you make awful financial decisions and the family's falling apart too. That's what it seems like.
See, now what do? You tank. You tank for the rest of the year, and you hope to get a quarterback.
Yeah, I'm just glad Nick Chubb scored for you.
Yeah, I know. Didn't play
after they took him.
Yeah, I didn't play him. Played Tank Dell. Scored. I don't want to get into it.
Okay, sorry.
Oklahoma fired their offensive coordinator, and Utah. You said the offensive coordinator at Utah resigned as well.
Andy Ludwig resigned, which I mean, never want to see. Well, there's a couple guys I wanted to see fired, but with Ludwig, with the Cam Rising thing, man, it's damn, dog, damn. It just. You're in a tough spot. You're having to play the backup quarterback.
Freshman.
Then you look at Oklahoma and Luttrell. Damn. Having to play two young quarterbacks. Having to play the backup, to the heir apparent. And, Luttrell and Venables are obviously, really close friends. And this is the worst part about the business. But if I'm an Oklahoma fan, you never wanted this to happen. We tried to tell you it was going to happen, but you never wanted this to happen. But by Venables doing this and firing one of his buddies, it shows you where his allegiances really lie. And that's to making Oklahoma better. Mm-hmm. That's to be willing to not say, I'll die on the sword with my guys that I played with or whatever. But you had to make this move to show the fan base that, A, you recognize that there's a problem, a catastrophic problem that has led to catastrophic results during this season, and you're willing to make a move. And two, it's that you are willing to not play buddy-buddy, and you will put the team over your personal feelings. It had to happen as part of the business, but I think both needed to happen. It's a little bit different situations, but kudos to Venables for making the decision. And you always say every time you fire a coordinator that you take one more notch to you being fired. So you don't do this with, a light hand.
No doubt. All right, last one here. The U.S. Grand Prix yesterday in Austin was a lot of fun. Ferrari took first and second positions. Max Verstappen held off for a podium finish, number 3. He got third this time, though.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
But I thought the post of the weekend, I can't remember who said it first, but they said, I can't believe the city of Austin held a motor race the same weekend that Georgia football players came to town.
Yeah, again, it's one of the reasons I can't get into Formula 1 because it's really Formula 2. It's about 2 guys. And Verstappen actually the fact that we're like, oh my God, Verstappen finished third, that should tell you all I think about it.
It's a great race.
Held off Lando Norris.
Glenn says a great race.
The way they raced.
Man, they raced real good. They did a good race.
Great. I know our guy in audio is going to love that.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, Rhinoceros. They done a good race.
I'm not sorry.
All right, we're going to get to phone calls and then to the chat, get to your donos too. First off, we all know some of you were drinking to celebrate this weekend. Some of you were drowning your sorrows. But regardless, all right, before you drink, you need to try out Z-Biotics. You actually need to drink Z-Biotics before you drink. And guess what? You don't feel as bad the next day. This is as close to magic as we're going to get, people, until the government tells us what they really have. What is Z-Biotic? Well, it's a pre-alcohol probiotic drink. It's the first one. It's been genetically engineered. It's a probiotic. All right, it's invented by scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Very simple. Here's the play. Here's the blueprint. You ready? You're going to go drink, and drink responsibly. But you're going to go drink. Before you go drink, to give yourself a little feel-better insurance, as I call it,
there.
You drink one of those Z-Biotics. Yep. Don't do it like David Cohn is, though.
Flip that.
He looks like he's either about to drink that or start an OnlyFans account.
No.
Only David.
Only David's.
For $10 a month.
For $10 a month, you can see Only David. 15. But you want to talk about a great deal. When you go to zbiotics.com/booster, you can learn more about it and get 15% off your first order when you use code BOOSTER at checkout. It's 100% backed with a money-back guarantee if you're unsatisfied, which you won't be. They'll refund your money, but you won't want it. You're going to give them more money because you're going to want to buy more of it. When you head to zbiotics.com/booster, and then you use code BOOSTER at checkout for 15% off. Just try it once and watch what happens. You'll never not have it. Speaking about not having, I'm glad we have calls, David. Let's get into it.
We're international, y'all.
No,
we're international.
Can I guess?
Where? What? Guess.
Yugoslavia.
A little closer to home.
Mexico.
You don't. Yes, thank you. Let's go to Noah in Mexico.
No way. New
Let's
Mexico
go,
or like the old Mexico?
Well, let's find out. Noah, where are you?
I am in the old Mexico, gentlemen.
Look at that.
They got phones down there?
You're in Texas?
The Witty Ninja has returned.
He has, back from the... Well, you've been down in Mexico, man. I mean, heck, how's it going?
Well, I'm currently helping my fiance get a visa.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
So, been having a lot of fun with that.
I'm sure.
Boys, I
just have her walk across the border.
love
Who
the
needs a
show.
visa?
Yeah, trust me, the thought has crossed our minds.
Yeah, pun intended.
Boys, I normally love the show. I love your insight, love listening in for all the football knowledge. But this LSU fan is here, and he has a bone to pick with y'all on behalf of the entire state of Louisiana.
The whole state?
And
the AP had y'all like 11, dog. Like, we're helping y'all out.
Hold on, we don't know this is about the top 10. Don't grant the premise that this is...
I know what this is about. He's calling from Mexico. Of course he's pissed.
Thank you, David. This has absolutely nothing to do with the top 10. This has to do with y'all's picks. And
yeah, you
I'm
tell
very
them.
upset. All 4 of y'all, including Jeff Foxworthy, picked Arkansas over LSU. No, I'm not upset at all, actually. In fact, I want all of y'all to keep picking the other team who plays LSU for the rest of the season.
That's why I'm doing it anyway.
We beat them.
Yeah, you should be saying thank you.
God,
we beat them.
You know, I'm pissed, Noah.
Because USC.
Yeah.
Because y'all picked us. And you live streamed
it. Yeah.
And
I did.
You live streamed.
Peterson says, once you let it go, twice you let it go, 3 times is a pattern. You guys have live streamed LSU 3 times. And 3 times we have lost.
Should we live stream the LSU
so wait
Texas
a minute.
A&M game?
Yeah. Well, now we're live streaming every LSU game.
I keep hearing favors.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to find, like, where did we mess up? You don't think we're out here doing this on purpose?
Hey, well, here's what I find funny, Noah. Like with our picks, like with our bets this weekend, slaughtered it, right when it came to it. Just killed, Loxley and Dogs killed. We get a couple picks wrong, and Noah calls from Mexico. And we're actually helping him out.
I just knew it would go this way. Once we all picked Arkansas.
You can't do that
and
again.
Jeff
I told y'all not to do that.
Josh
I told y'all not to do it. It always has to be me. It always has to be me.
No,
always
we'll work on it. So you want us to live stream this? You know what? I'm gonna pick A&M just to break this.
We're gonna live stream the LSU Texas A&M game. Noah, I hope you're in there to watch it.
I'll be there, and I'll be upset about it.
See you, buddy.
Noah, good luck, buddy.
All right, let's go to Brian in Nebraska. Brian, what happened this weekend?
I don't want. Well, okay, we're gonna have to talk about it, but it was horrible. It was horrible. But any other fan base, I don't want to hear any complaining because everybody else is just competing for second. Because it could be really bad, but you're still not Nebraska. Oh my goodness, that was bad.
I feel like any other fan base except the one I root for could say, like, you think it's bad to be a Nebraska fan?
God, what are y'all? What's y'all's record? 5-2?
Must be nice.
Yeah, God, must be nice. We're over here at Auburn with cardboard signs on the side of the road.
Yeah, hey,
and FEMA's having to send mental health professionals.
Imagine being up 17 in the fourth.
Yeah,
and then losing.
I would have rather us.
At least y'all know who's starting at quarterback this weekend.
For a little bit.
It's just, how did y'all get beat that bad?
Like Indiana's better.
So bad.
Indiana's better than what a lot of people thought.
I guess Matt Rule's NFL knowledge just didn't transfer for this game.
That's unfair. That's unfair.
For this game, he's like, damn, I forgot.
Hey, can I tell you this, though? I laughed. The hardest I probably laughed all weekend outside of when Blaine went on that show when he was at my house Saturday morning and won and got to do a 30-second speech at the end and started off by looking at the host and saying, do y'all have trumpets or should I just start? Probably the second hardest I laughed was when Nebraska ran that ball in to go up 20, or Indiana ran that ball in to go up 28-7, and they shot to Kurt Signetti on the sideline, and he had no emotion. Just like this. I was like, oh my God, he's a killer. Somebody investigate this man.
Yeah, I just don't help me understand. Y'all are 6.5-point dogs in this game.
Bro, y'all got walked.
How do y'all get beat by 50 by Indiana?
There's no excuse for it. Like, it's coaching because, and I get that their players are good, but they're coached up good. Like, on paper, Nebraska should have the better players, right? So how is it anything other than coaching for me?
So how do you feel about how do you feel this weekend then against the Buckeyes? Is it going to be another one of these? Is it going to be another one of these?
It's like you thought Indiana was good. Oh, no. Knowing the way college football is, it'll go into overtime.
It's so bad that my 3 sons are under 3 years old, and I'm pretty sure they already hate me into having birthed them into this fandom. Like, that's how bad it is.
No, you got to. Look.
Just remember, it could be worse.
Yeah, it could be worse, man.
Give them a hug and say, you don't have a choice.
We're in the cellar. Everybody else is just trying to dig their way down. You're not going to get there.
Yeah, if you're in the cellar, then we're in the root system.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, Brian.
At least 1 year. All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, buddy.
Bud.
All right, let's go to Andy. Let's go to Andy in Florida. Andy, what's going on?
Can you guys hear me?
Andy, what's up?
Andy, we can.
Horns down, baby. Let's go.
Andy, how are you feeling? Talk your ish.
Remember who Jake picked. He picked Texas to win that game.
I know he picked Texas to win. That's okay. I forgive Jake. To be honest,
why do you got to
Georgia fan? Here's the thing: is Georgia fans didn't feel too great going into that either. So in Jake's defense, I get it. I missed the first part of the show. I don't know if you guys talked about the officiating. I know you touched on it yesterday in your recap. I just wanted to ask if you think that we'll get an actual statement from the SEC, because the statement we got was complete gaslighting about that whole situation. I think they're insulting our intelligence. Look over here. We're fining them $250,000. We're removing their tickets. We're finding pictures of them, Big Brother, all this stuff.
Yeah.
But no statement on the actual process of what happened there. Look, I know it wasn't a pass interference. I think everybody agrees with that. But do you think we get a statement about the actual officiating in that part? It's besides what they already put out.
To me, it's like the government, right? They'll misdirect you, but they won't admit they're wrong. They won't have a statement about, hey, we screwed this up. Like, they're just going to say, hey, look, we did this over here. So therefore, you don't think it's misdirection. It's the prestige. We see this in politics all the time. Here's my problem with it. Okay. Number one, I've never seen that before. I have never seen a non-reviewable call during that amount of time after the call had already been said to the people, after it had been marked off, right, get overturned, especially on top of a delay because of beer bottles and water bottles being thrown on the field. Here's where I'm at with it. I think there's two things. One, I want the call to be right. I want them to make the right call. But the mechanics of the call and how you get there are incredibly important. Because without the mechanics, anything goes. There are no rules. It's the wild, wild west. If getting to the right call, if to get to the right call, you have to do what happened in that game, I don't want it. I don't want it. Now, if they would have called the pass interference or thrown the flag and then got together and talked about it and overturned the call, said, we see this all the time. We pick the flag up. There is no penalty here. It's Texas's ball. That's fine. But the mechanics of getting to that right call, is a bigger problem than getting the call right overall, in my opinion. Because now if that's the precedent you just set, that you can throw the flag, talk about it, say the penalty, mark it off, and then decide to go back and change it, to me that throws everything off and goes against the whole system, which would tear it down a lot quicker than missing a pass interference.
That was my question yesterday, was that sort of huddle that we see sometimes when refs get together on pass interference and they decide to pick up the flag. Was that happening before all the chaos ensued, but the refs had to disperse to put that out? But once you've marked it off and you're ready for play, essentially,
you can't. It's a non-reviewable play.
It's like there's no way you can expect anyone to believe that it wasn't because of the fans.
I'm telling you, if Texas would have came back and won,
they better be thankful Texas didn't come back.
250,000.
Kirby said, think about Kirby Smart is actually really good in the press about knowing what to say most of the time. The fact that after the game, just think about this. The head coach at Georgia had the balls to say they tried to rob us in here tonight. To the national audience, that I've never heard a coach talk so cavalier. That's how egregious it was. That's how bad it was.
And after that happened, every targeting situation, I just knew that they were going to kick the Georgia fans out of the game. This is how conspiracy theories happen. I mean, my dad and I were watching the game, we were yelling at the TV, and then every call with the targeting, maybe one was, I think they missed one on KJ Bolden, to be quite honest with you. But the one with Aguero coming over the middle, I don't know. That seemed like a good hit. But I told my dad, I said, Dad, he's getting kicked out of the game. He's like, there's no way. And that's the type of stuff where people start thinking look, I'm not one to try to blame the rest. But anyway, last thing I'll say, I know I've been on here kind of long. After that situation, what makes me so proud to be a Georgia fan, it's been a crazy year. We have not been consistent. Was right after that situation when they get the ball on their 9-yard line, they get a touchdown. It's a 1-score game. We go and drive 90 yards to put it away.
That was a killer drive.
I've never been prouder to be a Georgia fan, knowing how inconsistent this offense has been. That, stoppage of play when our backs were against the wall, it seemed I thought Texas was going to win at that point, to be quite honest with you, just with in that third quarter. But I've never been prouder to be a Dog fan than that moment there.
That one ripped their guts out. Yeah, that was the final stake. Great call, Andy.
Appreciate it.
Targeting's a problem in football, in college football. Huge problem that's doesn't get talked about enough.
Appreciate it, Andy. All right, let's go to Kyle in Texas. Kyle, what's going on?
Guys, I don't want to beat Nebraska, Indiana too much further. I know there was a previous caller who talked about it, but I was 6 feet from the edge and thinking maybe 6 feet wasn't so far down. But yeah, without falling on that too much, I just wanted to ask you guys. So Nebraska's next 3 opponents, Ohio State, UCLA, and USC, they all have bye weeks before they play Nebraska.
Yeah.
And seeing how Nebraska apparently decided to take time off on the bye week and not practice anything, that has me concerned quite a bit for the rest of the schedule. So I just want to ask you guys, what do we need to do to right the ship, especially since we have 3 opponents who are going to have an extra week to prep for this.
Well, and it's a great call, Kyle. Obviously, you should be better than UCLA, and it should be pretty damn even with USC when it comes down to it. But we thought it was going to be pretty even with Indiana. Now the culture gets tested. We talked about Matt Rule and building and what it takes to be able to build Nebraska back into a premier place as a winner, not just as a brand. And it's not just when it's going good. It's when you got your ass kicked a little bit. It's when now people who were way up early in the year, like people that were way up early in the year, you're not getting those pats on the back. You're not getting those, you guys are the new generation that's going to get Nebraska back. Now is when you find out what Matt Rule is really building. And I think they're going to put their best foot forward. I think, you've got some older leadership on that team. We know Raiola's young. I think they're going to come out and fight against Ohio State. But this is why you make it a faceless opponent. I know you asked me about the bye weeks. They're going to be a little bit healthier. They're going to have a little bit more time to put stuff in. But if Nebraska goes out there and plays the way that they should play, they should have a chance to win 2 out of those 3 and maybe a chance to put some game pressure on Ohio State. I think Matt Rule's got a good culture in there. I think y'all are going to bounce back.
Appreciate it, Kyle.
Great call, Kyle.
I hope so. And hey, at the very end of the day, at least Iowa lost. So suck it, Hawkeyes.
There you go. That's a great way to look at it.
You could be an Auburn fan.
All right, let's go to Colton in Georgia. Colton, what's going on?
What's up, guys?
What up? Colton? Oh, yeah.
No question. What would it say about the Big Ten in a whole if Indiana competes for the Big Ten title, maybe wins it with a bunch of transfers, 13 James Madison players, and didn't spend $2.1 million on a roster?
Well, I think it tells you, multiple things. Listen, I could sit here and talk about the Big Ten versus the SEC. I watched Indiana run around, and I watched them physically. They're pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're just good. They got good players that are smart and they're well coached. I think it's the biggest credit you can give to a coaching staff for multiple reasons, and why I gave Norvell a bunch of credit for last year. And then you look at what happened this year with the transfer portal. It's one thing to come in year one and have all the resources in the world and be able to buy a bunch of guys to come in and play, and they're really good players, and you keep them together. That's not easy, but it's not as difficult. I think Cignetti's threaded the needle. I think he brought in the right guys that are talented enough, got the culture where it needed to get quickly to understand how professional you have to be to go about this, but also insert that swagger and keep a team that has a lot of guys that haven't played with each other. Yeah, some play with each other at James Madison, but when you look, the guys that are hitting the transfer portal from Indiana were some guys that actually helped them last year before Cignetti got there. Look at the wide receiver. Look at the guy that just hopped in the transfer portal. Cignetti is pitching a perfect game right now in Indiana because he doesn't have all the resources everybody else has, but he's used his ability to close that gap. And, I mean, they're playing with confidence, they're talented, and they're a problem. So I don't think it's a knock on the Big Ten. I think it's a credit to Cignetti.
Mm-hmm.
And Rourke's a really good player.
Yeah,
that was a great pickup to bring in. It just goes to show you, you can bring that guy in and fix it in Indiana, but you can be stupid and keep Peyton Thorne at Auburn and see what happens to you.
I do agree. I think Indiana's pretty gross. I just think it's awesome the way he built the roster, man. I think that's I feel like a lot of teams could use that,
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Well, it's definitely there.
Cignetti's the man.
Appreciate it, Colton.
Great call, man.
Thanks, man. All right, let's go to Matthew in Arkansas. Matthew, what's up, man? I didn't get to you last week, so this is Pongo.
Hey, it's the Heartbroken Hog here.
Back in the death saddle again. He's back. Oh, dang, man.
Nah.
Believed in y'all, dog.
Sean from Baton Rouge.
I was about to. Oh, shit.
That you were going to call in. Come on, man.
I was going to say, that didn't sound like
you didn't have the long breath before.
Damn it.
I was like, he must really be heartbroken this time.
It's hard. I know it's hard. Auburn fan and a Michigan fan this year. But at least you ain't Arkansas fans. I mean, the last time Arkansas even thought about winning a championship, they dropped a pop-up in foul territory to let Oregon State beat them in Omaha.
Let the hate out, Sean. Let the hate out, Sean.
No. You know what? Enough about them. They are irrelevant. Who cares, right? I want to talk about the Fighting Tigers of LSU taking on the Texas A&M Goobers this weekend, okay, with their effeminate cheerleaders and the dog that they have to salute because it outranks them in their fake military, okay? They are known for exactly 3 things: being Texas's little brother, okay, being completely mid with the gay cheerleaders, and then burning a bunch of students in a bonfire. That happened. Look it up, okay? But you know what? Who even cares? You guys pick us. You pick us to win. You pick us to lose. Who cares? Bayou Bengals are taking them by 2 scores this weekend, and when they do, I'm going to live up to the what do you call it?
Expectation?
I'm going to live up to the stereotype. I'm going to live up to the stereotype and get drunk as a skunk. No Z-biotics. Go Tigers.
No Z-biotics.
You psychopath.
What a call.
I tell you what, hate.
Is that our first call sign theft? I've never.
I wonder if he fooled the call-in people.
He had to.
Kids got burned up in a bonfire?
No, that actually happened. It's really sad, actually. It's really sad.
Wow. Yeah. All right. Well,
even sadder. Texas A&M empty trophy case, baby.
He's still here.
Sean is the joker of this.
Get him off the line.
Wow, Sean,
thanks for calling in. All right.
Oh, A&M hate
Matthew, man, you better call in this week and defend your call sign.
I knew when we didn't get that
A&M hate week.
Yeah.
That it may not have been him or his heart was really broken.
All right. Anyone else on the line? Y'all call in tomorrow.
I haven't really been mean to A&M lately.
I
got to step up my game.
All right. We got double dose of Monday Night Football tonight, guys. All right. The Bucks, 3.5-point underdogs at home against the Ravens.
Ravens are good.
They are pretty good. But I'm going with the Bucks. Shout out to our boy David.
Are you?
In Tampa. Give me the Bucks plus 3.5, David. Right? Probably going to lose by a field goal. Justin Tucker. Smells right. And then the Chargers, coached by Harbaugh. Bet you missed those days. Playing the Cardinals. Not the ones from St. Louis, one from Arizona. Give me the over. I think we're going to get over 44 tonight. 5-1 yesterday in the NFL bets. Saquon Barkley, the only one I didn't hit, I had Saquon at 2+ touchdowns at plus 250, and they decided just to push Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, that's why you never
couple
bet
times.
running backs for the Eagles scoring touchdowns.
Well, Saquon hit one of them. It hit my prize picks, that's for sure. But, all right, David, what are your bets?
All right, I'm going to go with the Ravens-Bucks over 50 points, minus 112. Let's go points. And then some of those points are going to be Chris Godwin on an anytime touchdown, plus 155.
All right, wouldn't be surprised by that playing against them against fantasy, and it's just been an absolute disaster.
It's not good.
I just don't understand how you can say you're playing a game and then get out there and not feel good.
Talking about Debo?
And not play. How does that?
He does it like 3 times a year. He does it like.
Look, I had my best fantasy week this week.
He's like, I think I
bet you did.
190.
You're Nick Cassiano, so just lie.
Yeah, he's like, I think I pulled my imagination.
Yeah, give me the I don't know how that happens. I don't think I can take the Ravens and Bucks minus 2.5. Give me the Ravens.
That's a great bet.
That can't miss.
Minus 158.
Give me the Ravens minus 2.5. That's minus 158. And give me a Mike Evans anytime touchdown. He just always scores.
He does.
Plus 1.
I may have put some money on that for first touchdown score too.
Not a bad
All right, let's get to Ace. What does he got? He's going to ride with me.
Look
the Bucks
at that.
plus 3.5 and Derrick Henry 2+ touchdowns tonight at plus 265.
Look, I need Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson to both score 40.
What's your how much?
Why?
Well, the thing about it is
I don't need
okay?
a dissertation. How much are you down?
Young Ho Key gets 1 point. You get 1 point. Tank Dell plays a 4-quarter football game and doesn't score a point. I don't know how that's possible. Debo doesn't feel good, like he's in kindergarten. Like, sorry, buddy, you have to play. You might have a little bit of a fever. So I have 40 points.
You're down 40?
I'm down like 60.
I'm playing against Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry.
Good. I hope you lose.
I'm up by 108.
Does he have anybody else playing tonight?
You're up 108?
Yeah.
Oh, well, good. Yeah, yes, Chris Godwin. I'm cooked.
Oh, yeah, you're done.
There's no coming back. All right, if you donated today, guys, really appreciate it. Serb with a $20 donation. Serb, I'm not singing the entire Let It Go song on Frozen on the show, buddy. We don't
Not for $20.
Yeah, we don't have time to do that. Let's go to a $5 donation from Son of Man. After what we saw in Texas, how much trash does a man have to throw at his wife to have a result of an argument be reversed? Asking for.
See, that's what I'm saying. It's causing problems all over the place.
Things on the planet.
Causing problems all over the place.
$5 donation from J.A. Appreciate it. Says, what's up, fellas? I'm ranting about the Jets. The coaching is terrible. The special teams was awful. Are we the NFL version of Auburn? Our defense sucks.
Y'all have tried everything. You tried everything. Got Aaron Rodgers. Fired the head coach. Got Devontae Adams. I don't know what else there's to try if you're the Jets. I mean, I don't know if there's what else to do. Just not good.
$2 donation from The Meme. He says, UAB is so bad, at least we have the Stallions.
That is true.
$5 donation from The Crisis. He says, only Coach Alabama doesn't want us a guy that takes a job after Saban because that guy obviously makes bad decisions.
So I said it's the stones it takes to take that job. Kudos to Kalen DeBoer. But I wonder, you think maybe there's just a little part of him right now that regrets it? I mean, you're over there at Washington, balling, got it all set up, table's already made, putting Penix in the draft, all these receivers, could name your next starter. But he wanted the smoke, but now you got it. And it's a lot of coughing. Now we're feeling for where the door is. I know the door handle's hot. Now we got to go out of a window. It's just you're running out of options.
$5 donation from BD says, hey, Cone, if the portal was around when you played, would you have considered transferring after Lloyd Carr got fired?
I already did consider transferring. I thought about it every single day. I mean, it was a little different that you had to sit out a year and two within the same conference. But, yeah, I saw, who was it? Tubby Smith. Coach Tubby Smith put out something about how he called his dad his first week of practice and he wanted to quit and wanted to come home. And his dad said, are you still on scholarship? Are they still feeding you? Are you still got a roof over your head? He's like, you're not quitting. You can't come home. Or he said, you can't come home. But if you want to quit, you can join the Army. Yeah. And I'm like, man, I'm glad that I had kind of the same thing. You know, I'm glad that I had to sit there and tough it out. But I did think about leaving for North Carolina.
Yeah, you should have quit. No, I'm just kidding. $2 donation from Joshua Hall. I appreciate it, Josh. Is Nico missing the deep ball his only obstacle yet to climb to make him an elite quarterback?
It's not the only one, but it's one of the biggest ones because it just affects everything. We, talk about down ballot. You're able to hit the deep ball. It opens everything underneath, and then Dylan Sampson's able to go off, and then you can use Nico's legs. I think decision-making is still something, and you're always working through that as a quarterback. It's an evolution process. I heard Tom Brady this weekend talking about how Patrick Mahomes said the game's finally slowing down for him, which is horrifying for anybody.
That's why he's fake running out of bounds and then going and getting.
But if Nico's able to start connecting on these deep balls, which I think that's the difference in him and Joe Milton, I think he has the ability to tighten it up, to chisel it in a little bit, as opposed to Joe Milton, I just think was out there just throwing bombs over Baghdad and hoping good stuff happened.
$5 donation from Welcome to Heaven. Appreciate it. This is an A&M fan here. I think we're going to win 34-31 last-minute field goal.
Like the over. I'd be surprised if we got that many points.
$5 donation from Ron, Mexico. Appreciate it, Ron. My favorite Aggie stat from the past weekend was 9 PDs to go with 11 tackles for loss and 3 sacks. We don't have to get to the quarterback on the ground to ruin his day.
That's true. If you look, and Nussmeier struggled with this against USC, batted balls. It's as good as a pass breakup from a DB breaking on a ball or an overthrow. You bat the ball down. Not only that, it could lead to interceptions. It pisses the quarterback off. Batted balls could be a huge thing, and we've seen him get batted against Nussmeier before.
$10 donation from Nate Dogg. Appreciate it, Nate. How's BYU not in the top 10, fellas? Disrespectful. Also, F the Yankees. Go Dodgers.
Second part, I agree with 100%. You could make an argument for BYU being at 10. You could. I'm not going to sit here and say I think you're wrong. I just, after watching what Indiana did and what BYU's done is really impressive. They were able to escape against Oklahoma State, but Retzlaff made the plays. You could have put BYU in there. You could have put Iowa State in there. Hell, you could have put Army in there. And I'd have been like, all right.
How about Pitt?
That makes it Pitt as well.
Pitt hosts Syracuse on Thursday.
That's a big one. We got some really good appetizer games.
UNLV Boise State this week, too, on Friday.
Janty has a chance to. You want to keep putting stamps on those Heisman. You do it against the UNLV team. It's pretty talented.
$5 donation from Old War Skull. He says, guys, we thought Gary Danielson was bad, but Mark Jones and Roddy Jones during the LSU-Arkansas game were hot garbage. How could it get any worse?
I don't know. I still like him better than Gary Danielson. Because he just kiss Alabama's ass every time.
$5 donation from the dog. He said, package $20 food and drinks, $1,000 plus 2 tickets, $28.64, giving the Longhorns a giant cup of STFU. I know you used to know what that stands for. Priceless for everything else. There's a MasterCard, baby. Beautiful.
Yeah, if you went to that game and you're a Georgia fan, it was well worth it. I just can't go to games on the road because if we lose and I got to take that trip back, I'm going to be even more pissed as opposed to just walking to the fridge.
$2 donation from You Got to Shake It Before You Bake It. He says Penn State's going to lose to Wisconsin. Remember, I told you here for
it.
They
might
be a good one.
That Wisconsin game's dangerous, dude.
$10 donation from the FDF over. I love the handle, dude. So I truly think Notre Dame is going to win by 14 because they will have a couple turnovers and Navy won't be able to handle all those losses. And we're getting better and better on offense week in and week out.
Yeah, well, I feel like this Navy game, and I haven't made my decision yet, but I feel like it's one we get really hyped up on, and then like it hypes Notre Dame up, and then Notre Dame plays good, and the team that we got hyped up for doesn't do well. I just feel like that's a lot of points. That's a lot of points for Navy to be laying at home against the Notre Dame team that still has shown a lack of explosive ability on offense.
$5 donation from the night. Appreciate it. He says, no Army this week, so no God bless the troops parlay, but I think Navy keeps it really close with Notre Dame at home. Enjoy it and take it easy, fellas.
Yeah, it sucks. My lock of the week that's hit like every week, Army isn't playing this week.
$5 donation from Nighthawk. He says, spend a minute telling me how good Army is. Can they make the playoffs?
Give me more than a minute. We're going to be talking about them as this continues because that's why I had Cody Worley, the OC, in my Broyles Award list.
$5 donation from Keegs. Appreciate it, Keegs. Have to shout out Jake for his prize picks this weekend. Homie got me up on 5X on baseball bets. Also, Retzloff is the truth. Hashtag go Cougs 7-0.
Yeah, first prize pick slate I ever posted. Absolutely banged it.
It crushed?
Banged it. Good. Wasn't even close.
$5 donation from the New Life. Have you guys put a note in your phone for December 14th? The Army-Navy game could be a doozy. Go Middies.
Yeah, I just wonder when they're going to play it. They could play it before.
$2 donation from Josh. Appreciate it, Josh. Thoughts on public responses to Cignetti versus Prime?
What?
Thoughts on public responses to Cignetti versus Prime?
Just in general, or was there something today that we...
I don't know if there's something that got broke or if it's in general, but that would, I mean... Maybe it's a year or two.
Well, I think, first off, Deion Sanders has a much longer track record. He's much more known than Cignetti. So he's going to get – I see what you're saying. Like, they're both super confident, borderline arrogant. I've seen some people not like what Cignetti says, but right now, just like when Prime talks it and they do good, it looks twice as good. Cignetti talks it, they're doing good, it looks twice as good.
All right, last donation of the day, a $5 donation from Titan. Appreciate it, Titan. He says, RIP, the Utah Utes offense, 21.
Yeah. Cam Rising, how many times are you going to go out there in pads and warm up and not play, dude? Or, like, get hurt? Like, at this point, and again, I don't know Cam personally, and I've been a big fan of his when he's healthy. Like, at what point are you hurting the program, like, by doing this every year? Like, at what point, I mean, where's the line where it's like, you know what, I just need to move on? I don't know.
Poll. Should Kalen DeBoer be on the hot seat? Yes or no?
No, 70%. Our audience is...
No, 71.
Oh, no, 73%. Wow. Yes, 27.
All right, great show today, guys. Appreciate everybody in there. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Shout out to Responsible Man, Shopify, and Z-Biotics. And like the chances of Vandy being scared this weekend against Texas, we're going.
Good toss.
Gone. That one came down a little bit hot, but still caught it.